Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 2 of The Strongest Magician in the Demon Lord's Army Was a Human. Maybe it's just me, and very likely it's because I am a female viewer, but what I'd love to know is what is it that Ike has that makes so many of the ladies in this series be so drawn to him? I don't necessarily mean this as a slam against Ike as a character, it's just as of the 2 episodes that we've seen so far, he really hasn't done much to make himself stand out. And yet every lady that we see come into the series seems to have some kind of peculiar fixation on him. Maybe I could understand it from the point of view of the 2 demons, one of whom realizes he's human, and the other who is a succubus who has no idea that that's what's going down and that her very biology might be playing against her. As for Sadie, I didn't really get that vibe from her initially, but then when we see any interaction between Ike and Lilith, it just goes absolutely haywire. And that's actually what made it stand out to me and made me go, what on earth is going on here? Because I mean, I'm not surprised to see all of the ladies fawning over the main male lead in this kind of a story. That is generally the gist of this, and again, not to be too mean to Ike, but he essentially suffers from what, in fiction, I would normally call the Bella Swan syndrome, meaning that he's like a Lego brick. He's kind of hollowed out so that the viewer can put themselves inside, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Depending on the kind of story that's being told and the objectives of the story, that can serve a perfectly legitimate purpose, and it's perfectly fine if that's what's going on here. It wasn't so much that each of them were interested, it was mostly when Lilith and Sadie were butting horns, essentially, or the absence of, that I was like, really guys? Because I just don't see it. And I mean, it's a shame because I've got no qualms when I do see it in a character, and a lot of times I do, and I'm like, oh, that guy's cool, I can get why the ladies want to be with him. It's not that there's anything wrong with Ike, he just hasn't proven himself to me yet, I suppose. Fortunately, when they're not all flopping and mopping about Ike, all of the ladies seem to be interesting in their own right. Sadie continues to be hilarious. I really liked seeing her out and about exploring town. She got into some trouble and was fortunately able to get out of it, and that was definitely a relief because that guy was a goober. And I'm so glad that not only did he actually get stopped when he went after them, but instead of just getting told off, Ike actually jabbed him with that icicle, and it was like, thank you. That guy was gross and he totally deserved it. I also really like her overall interactions. The fact that she seems to be settling into the situation that she is in, and that she seems to be taking it as an active participant rather than having it happen to her. Her concern over what's going to happen to the town, and her awareness of what would happen if she was returned to the humans is very interesting, because it's not merely that she has become Ike's maid and she cannot leave. We are seeing in this aspect of Sadie's character that she actually has her own legitimate motivations to want to actually be around Ike and to work with the demons and to improve those relationships, even if she didn't necessarily come into this show with that as a stated initial goal. The fact that her reality makes it so that she and Ike can have shared plans in that regard is actually very clever. I think that Lilith is going to be a hilarious addition in her own right. I mean, I get that some of her aspects are that she's very tropey and that she is a succubus, and there are certain things that come with the territory when we deal with a character like that. She didn't bother me in any way. I actually really like her design, and the way that everything happened when she and Ike went to go and find Alystair was actually really funny. The fact that she kept attacking things when he kept telling her not to was actually really hilarious. And I mean, the fact that he finally just goes up and basically goes, I saw nothing, was just great. We get another fabulous scene with Ike's boss, and she continues to be interesting and somebody I genuinely enjoy. I think her name is Sephiro. I've got to go and look that up and make sure I get it right. I don't want to be mispronouncing it. But she heals him here, and it's so great that she's able to do that and that worked out, because holy crap, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how is he going to get out of this mess? Because when that arrow hit him, I mean, he is human, and I'm thinking, oh boy, that is no joke. I mean, I read a historical once where that happened to somebody, and one of the characters it happened to lost a freaking limb. Getting an arrow shot into your shoulder is not something to sneeze at. So I'm very relieved to see that he is all right, and that there was a way to take care of that and everything. And he's very lucky that this person actually knows how to do this healing stuff, because, I mean, otherwise, what on earth would they be able to do for him? I mean, his secret would be revealed for sure. It does make me question just what and whether the little pig man figured anything out. And while we're on the topic of him, I actually find him very adorable. I mean, he might not be like visually stunning, but he seems to be a really genuinely cool character. I feel kind of bad that I don't know what his name actually is. And it was really kind of sad seeing everyone tear him down and going, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly. And then Ike going, oh, you're not entirely ugly. It's like, guys, he's a completely different species than you. I mean, as humans, like, are we gonna find like a warthog attractive or something? No. So I mean, I do feel kind of bad for him. I get that it was a joke and everything, but I really like his character, because not only did he bring Ike back to get help, I would assume based off of the situation, and not only did he look genuinely concerned, but he also has never, as far as I can recall, mistreated Sadie in any way, and he's always been decent toward her. And when Lilith was being a pain in the ass, he's the one who threw her out. And no amount of being called piggy or any other insults seemed to be able to sway him in any way from moving from where he was at that door. That's right, Pigman, you stand by your guns. As far as good or interesting writing, the thing that really stood out to me in this episode is the reality that they are doing such a great job at using ideas and behaviors to highlight what is good and what is bad, rather than basing it off of race, which is a relief, because I mean, so often it's very easy to make demons come across as evil and tropey and stuff, or have humans come across as saintly, even though humans are often very complex. We see a lot of things that the humans in this world are doing that are like, what on actual earth? First off, we see all those children in the cage that Sadie points to early in the episode. And I mean, that kind of thing always makes me sad. I know that it's a common trope within isekai or fantasy stories, so it doesn't faze me too much, but at the same time, it's one of those things where whenever I see that in fiction, it's just like, okay, whoever's doing that, you scummy. Yuck. Gross. The other thing that really stood out and that was much more interesting as an aspect of bad behavior on the part of the humans that we saw was actually the reality that they actually imprisoned the night leader, Alystair, when they failed to capture the city that they were trying to capture from Ike. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, there is actually historical precedent for situations where that have happened throughout history. We saw that when people in World War II would go back to Russia and fail. That was very, very bad. So it is something that has happened in the past. And so obviously it's something that could be referenced for real in here. But wow, I can't think of much that's more dumb than punishing your own people for not being able to succeed. I mean, it's one thing if they disobey orders or if they betray people, or if they end up getting a whole bunch of people needlessly killed or any number of other things like that. But merely for not actually succeeding, which is something that's not necessarily within their actual control, that just left a bad taste on my mouth and was a very bad look. And it definitely makes me dislike the humans, which was the point. They've got to be very careful how they balance this though, because they need to show us reasons to like and to dislike the humans. First off, because whether we want to deal with it or not, we are humans, and when we see these things in story, we are going to end up feeling at least a certain way about how humans are portrayed. On the other hand, though, there's also the fact that within the context of this story, we are supposed to empathize with both the demons and the humans, and that can be a true challenge if they overload either side with too much good or too much evil. showing that there is balance for each side and that each has things they can teach the other and each is worthy of continuing to exist is going to be very important, especially given this story's premise. Overall, though, this was a pretty good episode, and I had a fun time watching it. I really did like the introduction of Lilith, and I find her character really funny. And all of the other characters that had initially grabbed my interest have succeeded in continuing to hold it. I wonder just what will actually happen, because we seem to have left this episode on a bit of a cliffhanger with Alystair being potentially aware of the fact that Ike is human. If she is to get a hold of that information, I wonder what, if anything, she'll actually do with it. I also wonder whether she was the one who set up an assassination, or possibly if there is somebody gunning for Ike's position within the demons, because I mean, we do see nice things about these demons, but again and again we have to be reminded that these are demons after all, so not everybody is going to be a Care Bear. Anyway, I can't wait to find out. Can you? I'd love to know, so leave a comment below and let me know. I'll talk to you later. Bye!